City of Gary has a 311 app? You can report any non-emergency request right from your smartphone. Need help dealing with unfair landlords? Use the app.
Girl, I just don't understand. I'm paying rent, and my landlord isn't fixing any of the issues in this apartment. What should I do?
You know you can report it on the Gary 311 app. Do you have it?
What's that?
Let me show you. Just go to your app store.
Or maybe you need to request the birth certificate.
Damn, I can't find my birth certificate.
Oh, it probably just got misplaced during the move. Actually, we can request a new one through the Gary 311 app.
Okay. New technology. I'm in.
Let me show you.
And guess what? You can even report illegal dumping.
Look at him! Just dumping his garbage on private property.
Well, caught him in 4K. You know we can report him on the Gary 311 app and to GPD's Taste Tip.
That's good.
Never feel frustrated again about an issue. Use the Gary 311 app to report all your non-emergency needs. It's a free application that allows users to report community issues, pinpoint the location with GPS, attach photos, and more. All right from your smartphone. Download the Gary 311 app today. Available on iOS and Android. Did you know the City of Gary has a 311 app? You can report any non-emergency request right from your smartphone. Need help dealing with unfair landlords? Use the app.
Girl, I just don't understand. I'm paying rent, and my landlord isn't fixing any of the issues in this apartment. What should I do?
You know you can report it on the Gary 311 app. Do you have it?
What's that?
Let me show you. Just go to your app store.
Or maybe you need to request the birth certificate.
Damn, I can't find my birth certificate.
Oh, it probably just got misplaced during the move. Actually, we can request a new one through the Gary 311 app.
Okay. New technology. I'm in.
Let me show you.
And guess what? You can even report illegal dumping.
Look at him! Just dumping his garbage on private property.
Well, caught him in 4K. You know we can report him on the Gary 311 app and to GPD's Taste It Tip?
That's good.
Never feel frustrated again about an issue. Use the Gary 311 app to report all your non-emergency needs. It's a free application that allows users to report community issues, pinpoint the location with GPS, attach photos, and more. All right from your smartphone. Download the Gary 311 app today. Available on iOS and Android.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the City of Gary Board of Zoning Appeals public meeting for Thursday, January 9th, 2025. Happy New Year to all. Thank you for that, Pastor Jones. Roll call, council.
Member Terrell Pons.
Present.
Member Florzell Hawkins.
Here.
Thank you, counsel. Ms. Sharp? Yes, ma'am. Use your mic, gentlemen. The next item on the agenda actually needs to be amended, so I think it's probably more appropriate to do it by motion to amend. So there's no need to swear in any new appointments. So I'll entertain any motions to amend it.
So moved.
And
Second.
having been moved and properly second, are there any questions or unreadiness? Roll call, counsel.
Mr. Bonds,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
Okay, so the agenda has been amended by a 3-0 vote.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the election of officers, and to that point, I will now, as president, relinquish my position to council, and council will administrate the meeting from this point until the office has been reset.
Thank you, Mr. Bonds. The pursuant to Gary Municipal Code, Section 123-30, at the first meeting of each year, the board shall elect the president, vice president, and secretary. So nominations are open for the election of Board of Zoning Appeals for the year 2025. May I have a nomination for president of the Board of Zoning Appeals?
I nominate Mr. Terrell Bonds as president.
We have a nomination. Do we have a second? Oh, no, it's just a nomination. That's right, this call. Okay. All right. I apologize. Okay, having one nomination only, let's take a roll call on Terrell Bonds as president of the BZA.
You didn't give me a chance to respectfully decline.
That is correct.
I will accept the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Bonds. Now that it's been formally accepted, we'll take a roll call on this nomination. Mr. Jones?
Yes. Tail Bonds.
Mr. Hawkins?
Yes.
And Mr. Bonds?
I can't abstain because we need, no, yes. I'm just kidding, everyone. Yes.
So we'll show that by a vote of 3-0, we have Mr. Terrell Bonds will be the president for the 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals. May I have a nomination for vice president?
I nominate,
Okay, we have a nomination for Florzell Hawkins as vice president.
second.
Mr. Hawkins as
No, we don't need the second, it's a nomination, right.
correct.
Sorry.
But as Mr. Bonds wisely pointed out, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay, now that it's been accepted, let's have a roll call. Mr. Bonds,
Yes.
Mr. Jones, and Mr. Hawkins.
Yes.
All right, so on a vote of 3-0, we will show that Mr. Hawkins has been elected as the vice president of the BZA for 2025. The final nomination, I will ask for if we have a nomination for secretary.
I nominate Pastor Jones.
Second.
Reverend Jones, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, I will.
All right, then we'll take a roll call on that. Mr. Bonds,
Yes.
Mr. Hawkins,
Yes.
and Mr. Jones.
Yes.
All right, so we'll show by a vote of 3-0. Reverend Chester Jones has been elected as the secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals for 2025. With that, I'll relinquish my position as administrator, and I will turn the meeting over to the Commission President Bonds to conduct the remainder of the meeting.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Do we have any minutes to be approved?
Yeah, we have the minutes.
Minutes are in your packet.
All right.
Move for approval.
Thank you, Pastor Jones. Having been moved and properly second, are there any questions or unreadiness? Hearing none and seeing none, roll call, council.
President Bond, oops, I'm sorry.
President Bonds,
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins,
Yes.
Secretary Jones.
Yes.
All right, we'll show by a vote of 3-0 that the minutes have been adopted as presented.
Thank you, council. Next item on the agenda are the actual action items. First being Petition BZA 2025-01, Development Standards Variance, 1051 through 55 Wayne Street. Will staff like to provide the board with an overview?
Yes. BZA 2025-01 is a development standard variance to request a smaller footprint of a home on their property. The property is located at 1051 to 55 Wayne Street. The code has a minimum square footage for residential properties in R2 of 1,500 square feet. They are requesting a reduction of that standard to build a home 1,130 square feet. In your packet is their application along with a picture of their property, their home plans. We did receive a letter of interest for the property. It was a request for more time to review since it was publicly noticed during the holidays. But we did not receive any input other than that. Staff recommendation is to approve the petition based on hardships stated in the narrative.
Thank you, counsel. Is the petitioner present? Would you like to provide us with any narrative or overview? And if so, please state your name and address for the record. Yes.
Yeah, my name is Philip Dworkin Cantor. So we purchased the property about a year ago and have been planning to build our home on it and design the home to be as compact as possible because the property itself is still wooded and we wanted to maintain as many of the trees as possible and keep the footprint of the home pretty small because we like the property because it is in the woods. So chose to design a smaller home. And that's, I think, our basic justification for the property.
All right, thank you. Was there anything else, sir?
Happy to answer any questions anybody has. Or?
Okay, well, for now, you can return to your seat if you're done, and we will open up public comment. Are there any members of the public who have signed and wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-01? Are there any members of the public? Oh, I didn't see that. I'm sorry. Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
I was one of the people that was involved in the letter that just requested a little more time.
Name and address for the record.
I'm sorry?
Your name and address.
Oh, I'm
for
sorry.
The record. That's okay.
George McGuan, 1074 North Wayne, Gary, Indiana.
Okay.
So I have adjacent property. I'm not here to object to what the petitioner requests, just so you know. I was hoping to have more time because of the holidays and some other personal issues that have been in the news. And I just wanted more time to study the proposal because I really don't understand the implications of the variance and how that might affect, adjacent property. So as I said, I didn't want to object, but if I could object and then withdraw the objections so after reading the material, I'd like to do that. But I'm not trying to cause any distress to Mr. Phil. Yeah, Phil. As I said, we just wanted more time. Is there any way to do that without?
Unfortunately, if that's not the recommendation of staff or the desire of the board, that won't happen. However, I do believe if there are any questions that you may have, I believe staff and the petitioner could address those while we're here, thereby not causing this to drag out unnecessarily. Because while we respect any objections, the objections does not have a full bearing on the decision made.
Well,
The
it's
decision
just-
made
yes,
is based off of statutory criteria, but we do respect the wishes of the neighbors. So,
Well, I don't have any objection. I won't
Okay.
state that I do because I don't know enough to even object.
All right.
But if it's not reasonable to delay the development of the property, myself and Mr. Lewis, who penned the letter, certainly won't object. We were just hoping to have more time. So
okay, so
The
I would
board is-
encourage, if you have any questions,
I wish I had enough
You don't have
information
enough?
to ask
Okay.
questions, but I just haven't had the time.
okay.
So I'll
well,
stand down and you do your best. So
Oh, thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-01? Hearing none, seeing none. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, seeing none, then I will entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. President, I move for approval of BZA 2025-01 per the recommendations of staff.
Is there a second?
I second it, President. My mic is. I'll second.
Having been moved and properly second, are there any questions or unreadiness? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, council.
President Bonds,
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins,
Yes.
Secretary Jones.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll show by a vote of 3-0, the developmental standards variance requested in BZA petition 2025-01 has been approved.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. You're more than welcome to stay if you like, but you don't have to at this point. If there are any other requirements, I'm sure the department will reach out to you to finalize any necessary steps. Thank you for coming. Next item on the agenda is BZA 2025-02, Development Standards Variance, 8343 Lakeshore Drive. Staff, please provide us with an overview.
Thank you, Mr. President. This petition is another request for development standard variances from the code. Specifically, the request is to decrease the minimum lot from 50 feet to 40 feet. The current code states that the minimum lot width must be 50 feet, but parcels in all across Gary are oftentimes much smaller than 50 feet. So their request is to have a 40-foot lot, which is the width of their existing lot as it's platted. To increase the floor area ratio from 0.5 to 0.53, increase the building coverage. The code is a maximum coverage of 35%. Their request is to increase that to 43%. And then the final request is to decrease the front yard setback from 25 feet to 14 feet. This is a unique parcel because it is on Lakeshore Drive, AKA the lake. So Lakeshore Drive right-of-way is actually the lake front. And so their front yard would be up against the lake, okay? We have received 2 letters of information from the same party. One was received on January 2nd, requesting information on the packet. We shared that with them. And then we received this letter today. It is a letter from Mr. Kerry Weaver and Miss Natalie Weaver in regards to this petition. I'd be happy to read it into record, or we can include it in the minutes. But in essence, they write in opposition of the variance to decrease the front yard on the northern side of the property, Lakeshore Drive, from 25 feet to 14 feet. And then they state the reasons why in that letter. Mr. President, what is your preference on reading this.
You can read it into the record if you wish.
I'm happy to. Okay, we write in opposition of the variance to decrease the front yard setback on the northern side of the property from 25 feet to 14 feet. Surrounding pre-existing neighborhood properties have largely stayed within traditional building regulations set forth in the zoning code. By continuing to maintain the validity of zoning ordinances, future hardships for all current and future property owners can be minimized. New construction should conform to the rules outlined in our zoning ordinances and not rely on variances for preference-based building. Without granting this particular variance, the proposed structure could be built within the traditional boundaries, producing no particular difficulty to the owners. The encroachment on the 25-foot northern setback is a preference and not a necessity to construction. Approving such encroachment sets a new building standard which will only further allow others to continue to build closer and closer to the north property line, thus negatively impacting previously built homes. Without granting this particular variance, the proposed structure could be built within the traditional boundaries, producing no, did I already read? It's 2 paragraphs duplicated there. And that concludes their letter.
Thank you,
So,
Ms. Sharp.
in regards to my recommendation, I'm going to break this down into 4 different categories. It is on your cover sheet in your packet underneath recommendation. In regards to item number 1, decreasing the minimum lot width from 50 to 40 feet, I recommend approval based on the hardship stated, and it is the current existing development characteristics of the neighborhood. Item number 2, increase the maximum floor area ratio from 0.5 to 0.53. Again, recommending approval because this is a block that maximizes their lot area. Increase the max building coverage from 35% to 43%. I'm recommending approval on that, again, for the same reason. It aligns with the hardships stated in the narrative and aligns with the existing neighborhood development characteristics. In regards to the 4th and final one, decrease the front yard setback on Lakeshore Drive from 25 to 14 feet. I'm requesting that you deny or reduce this. If the board opts a reduction, I recommend that no more than 20 feet setback to align with their adjacent neighbor. The properties to the west, as shown on your map in the packet, all comply with the 25-foot setback. There is one property to the east, which is along Shelby Street. This east property neighbor has a setback of 20 feet, which is the reason why I'm either giving you 2 options for your consideration. Obviously, you can pick any number you want, but that's the reasoning behind a recommendation.
Is that all, Ms. Sharp?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council indicated that there was a second letter?
There were 2 letters from the same individual. The first letter is included in your packet. It is a request for more information. We sent them the information, the drawings, and then they followed up with the letter that I read into record.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Is the petitioner present? Would you please come forward, provide us with an overview and narrative, should you wish, and state your name and address for the record?
Press. Oh, the green, okay, there you go. My name is James Cooper. I currently reside at 1100 North Wayne, as does my wife, the other petitioner, Deborah Martin. We've both been residents of the city of Gary now for 35 years. Actually, my wife grew up in the city of Gary. What we're doing is we purchased a property that had a home on it that was in disrepair, total disrepair and rotten and mold, and we've since torn the house down that existed there previously. The intent is that we build a new single-family dwelling, which will be our permanent residence. We plan for this to be our age-in-place home. As Ms. Sharp had said, the one variance we're asking for is the going down from 50 feet to 40 feet. My understanding is there may be something soon pending before the council that may deem this type of request moot. But I did want to say that I did research this prior to coming to the meeting today, and this section of the neighborhood was replatted in 1920. And this particular parcel, as well as along the lake shore there, it has maintained that characteristic since actually June of 1920. So it's not a recent subdivision. We looked at things like safety and so on when the structure that existed on the property actually encroached on the neighbor's property to the east. In tearing the house down, we have eliminated that encroachment, and from a neighborhood safety standpoint, we've improved the safety in that now emergency personnel or whomever may need, there is room for movement between the houses. Most of the, and I'll get to the front yard in a minute. Most of the square footage and so on that we talk about that caused us to go over the standard, my wife has a number of medical issues, including multiple sclerosis. So in building this home, we took that into consideration, and we needed extra space for the elevator. We're going to put an elevator in the home, and there's additional space within the garage in order to maneuver around as needed. Currently, she is not wheelchair bound or anything, but I'm in my late 60s, she's in her early 70s, and we just know that health doesn't get better as we age. When we designed the house, we did everything we could to try to minimize having to come to this board, which we appreciate very much. Your listening to our petition and considering our petition. The house as it's currently in your package, the 25-foot building line for the front yard, the house currently is about a foot behind that. And the reason the house is a foot behind is because of the limitation on the house being 25 feet. If it's more, you need to come back. So from a building line perspective, the house itself is at or behind the 25 foot. What is north of the what you would call that 25-foot front yard is actually our deck. It's a two-story deck. The first floor of the deck is, and when you look at your drawings, the first floor of the deck is completely open to air and so on. The second floor of the deck is open, but we're planning to have a screen that will retract. So the second floor deck would be open as well. So it's not walled in. So that's what is north of the 25-foot line is the deck, the two-story deck. Now, we didn't believe that to be an issue. And when we had the architect design the house, he did put a roof over the second floor of the deck. And it's my understanding now that perhaps now that makes it a porch and it falls potentially within a different category. So we would like to keep the deck. The deck is only 12 feet in depth, and it's actually only 11 feet across, encroaching into what would, I guess, be considered the front yard. So we would ask for the board to rule in our favor. And I do believe that there have been variances of late that have approved front yard setbacks along the lake in the 5-foot range, in the 5-foot category. Just a little bit to the east of us. I believe there was one recently in the 8500 block. I'm blindsided by what just happened here today, so I haven't had an opportunity to research. But for example, the neighbor 2 houses down, their deck goes all the way to their property line. Now granted, it may not be, and I believe that part of it is 2-story. I don't know. I've got to go back and look and see if it has a roof over it. And houses to the west of them, there's a couple houses that the house is actually on the property line. So we would ask that the board rule in our favor. It would be difficult to see a 12-foot deck cut down in less than half. So those are our thoughts there. And I would mention one other thing, is a couple of other things as far as the safety in the neighborhood. The previous home, the garage, was almost literally on Lakeshore Drive. You'll notice that we did not ask the board for a modification in the backyard. So we have, with the new structure, we'll have approximately 30 feet of driveway, south of the garage. So from a safety standpoint, we will be able to get the parking vehicles off the street. And as far as improving, we definitely feel that the structure will improve the value and the aesthetics of our community. And we believe that this home will not be injurious to other property or improvements in the neighborhood. And I think at this point, we haven't bid the house, but the value of the house will be a significant improvement to the in the assessed valuation for the city of Gary as well. With that, I guess I should sit down.
Well, thank you, sir.
I thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, I will open up public portion. If there are any members of the public who have signed and wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-02, are there any members of the public who wish to speak? in regards to BZA 2025-02? Seeing none, we will declare it closed. Does the board have any questions?
I would like to ask staff, Ms. Sharp, you did give a favorable recommendation after going out and doing your investigation.
I've given a partial recommendation, favorable for the first 3 items. And then for the last one, recommending a reduction. And the petitioner did explain that it is a deck with a roof. And he also explained that there is a 30-foot driveway on the opposite side of the property. So if the petitioner wishes to maintain the 12-foot deck, we could potentially take it out of the 30-foot long driveway. Just as an idea. But if you would like for me, Mr. Secretary, to reread my recommendation, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. That's not necessary.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the board? All right, I have, you can come back to the podium, Mr., is it Cooper? You can, but because I have some questions for both you as well as staff. One thing we try to maintain as of late is that we stay consistent. I have not been here for all of the previous BZA's decisions, but I'm going to assume, but I'm going to couple that assumption with an ask. Is it fair to say that the house to the east, I believe that is 8353? You said that setback is already at 20 and not 25?
If on page 1 of 2 in your packet, the front cover page of the packet, the map that's on there, their property is 8343. To the east is 8353. That is a 20-foot setback. The properties to the west, 8337, 3325, are all, they meet the code of 25 feet.
So, and those houses, again, are, Mr. Cooper, you stated that there are other houses on another block where the house sits on the actual property line?
That would be to the west, within, so this property that we're talking about here is between Shelby and St. Joseph. So this would be, there, I believe there's at least one house, and again, I'm ill-prepared because I'm kind of blindsided by what just occurred here. So, you know, I'm not in disagreement if the board wants to move this to the next hearing so that this can be researched further. I'm willing to do that. But because I'm ill-prepared to respond, but I do know that when I look, as Ms. Sharp is saying, when I look at the GIS, definitely there's decks that are up to the property line, and I believe there's houses that are either on the property line or very close. But I need to research it because I don't want to you know, speak out of turn.
That's understood. As a petitioner, and correct me if I'm wrong, counsel, you can, I don't want to advise you to do it, but you can choose to, I don't know if I want to use the word withdraw the petition, but request to have it moved to the next hearing to provide any adequate time.
May
I think that's fair. And while he's getting some consultation, I also think it is, out of being consistent, fair and equitable, the 20 feet. Cut the baby in half a little bit, but not in half, but by 5 feet less. So I don't know how much of a deal breaker that would be. So historically, we accept the recommendation of the staff who've put in the hard work
I understand.
studying the process.
Yeah.
What I do like is that Ms. Sharp, although she said deny or reduce, so it would stay in the alignment with the property to the east. I don't know how much 5 feet is a deal breaker for you, but perhaps if you need more time to do some research, you can request that.
So, and again, I mean, I don't want to kind of hold a committee meeting here because I know your time is valuable and so on. So, I just wanted to make a statement regarding Ms. Sharp's the driveway. One additional reason the driveway outside of the issue that, you know, it gets parking off the street and it's more of a safety thing. Because of my wife's medical conditions and so on, the driveway is sloped. And I don't know exactly what all the terminology is and so on, but the slope of the driveway right now is 0.83. And I understand that that meets the ADA standards for like a ramp and so on.
The pitch.
Exactly. And so if we bring the house back, now we've got an issue with the age in place and, you know, the slope of the driveway. And so, I mean, we've put a lot of thought and consideration into this. So I basically would ask the board, and if this needs to be done, what is the best thing to do? Just withdraw and start the whole process again, or defer to the next meeting and give the petitioner an opportunity to research? Now, I will say, and again, I appreciate all the work that Ms. Sharp has done. I've had one conversation with the attorney, and I've had, you know, multiple conversations. I can't get any information on what has been brought before this board. Information is not out there. So I have 2 FOIA requests outstanding to even see what the agenda has been for the BZA board for the last 3 years. So, you know, here I am struggling, trying to get information, trying to understand. But I do understand that I believe there was a house on Wells Street that there's a minimal front yard setback there now, and that was done, I believe, at the November meeting, and I believe it's on the 8500 block of Lakeshore Drive. If I recall correctly, now that is on the lake, and that front yard was brought back to maybe 5 feet or something like that. So I'm having difficulty, you know, doing research and getting information. And that FOIA request, again, I know everybody's short-staffed and so on, but that FOIA has been outstanding for almost 90 days.
Then perhaps, I do not want to advise, but perhaps you should request to move it to the February meeting to provide you the adequate time that you think you may need to get any additional research. I cannot speak to the response of the FOIA request. You're moving from 25 to 20. Maybe that's a livable.
I would say at this point it is not.
Oh, okay.
It is not. I mean, I wouldn't be arguing if it,
Right.
and I'm using the term loosely, if I'm not, I wouldn't be discussing if it weren't, you know.
Well-
And sir, I would say as well, I know the Weavers. We've worked with the Weavers. We bought the house in March of last year. And so we've tried to work with the neighbors to let them know what we're doing, how we're doing, when we're doing, and so on and so forth. The house that we purchased has been in the same family for 50 years. So these older homes don't come up that often. And I don't know for what reason, but when the homes were built way back, they were closer to the road, which is the alley of the Lakeshore Drive is the alley. And so as the older homes are being purchased, they're being expanded or they're being torn down and new homes are being built. The Weavers' home has been in the family for a very long time. And I almost looked that we're being asked to follow a standard that when either the house to the east, which is built in the 30s, or the Weavers, you know, that was probably built at an equal time, is torn down, and then their new houses are built, they are going to want to go forward as well.
So
that,
why
that's
don't we
all I'm
do
saying.
this, Mr. Cooper? Why don't you tell us what you want to do?
I'm willing to defer. I just need to, I think that's the smartest thing to do since
right.
I'm blindsided by it.
Okay.
I don't
And
think it
that's
makes
doable.
sense to
We can
withdraw.
we can do that.
Yeah.
We can do that. Yeah, I wouldn't want to withdraw myself.
Right.
But perhaps deferring, so that we can provide Mr. Cooper an opportunity to do his own due diligence. What is the board's pleasure?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I would move for deferment for February.
Second.
Having been moved and properly second to defer BZA 2025-02 to February, are there any questions or unreadiness? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, council.
President Bonds,
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins,
Yes.
Secretary Jones.
Yes, sir.
Show by a vote of 3-0, the petition 2025-02 for developmental standards variance has been deferred to the February BZA meeting.
Thank you, council. Mr. Cooper?
Could I just ask that, that zoning forward to me what the recommendation was so that I can, or is that not permitted?
No,
it's
absolutely.
permitted. It's
The entire packet has been online on the zoning website for about 10 days now.
So it's accessible. So perhaps if you either stick around or maybe you can reach out to
We'll
Ms.
send
Sharp.
you a link.
Okay,
You're
there you go.
welcome.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Next item on the agenda is BZA 2025-03, special use to allow a home daycare, 254 Cleveland Street. Staff prepared with their overview.
2503 is a petition by Ms. Averett, and her request is to create a home daycare. This application did come in prior to us approving the new special use application. So for your information, this will be the last application that you see underneath the former special use application. She adequately submitted the information that we requested. This is an owner-occupied. I did drive by all of the properties on the petition today, and their property is adequate for a home daycare. My recommendation is to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Is the petitioner present? Would you like to provide the board with an overview or narrative of your petition? You don't have to, because you don't look like you want to. but I'm obliged to ask you if you wanted to. Don't be nervous. It'll be all right. Hit the green button and tell us your name and address for the record.
My name is Linda Everett. My address is 254 Cleveland Street, Gary, Indiana, 46404. I am requesting a small daycare in my home for between 5 and 6 children. And hopefully, my property is up to standard. I have a very large backyard for play area, and it's enclosed in I think it's 6 to 8 foot yard. You know, it's enclosed with wire, and I have slabs in there where can't nobody look in unless they come right up on it and stuff like that. And so far, each one that I have tried, different ones to come in and give me their opinion, I've gotten good report from every parent that have looked at it. Now, I would like for you all to approve it.
I thought you didn't want to talk.
Was it anything you would like to ask me?
No, ma'am, I don't think, but thank you.
And your staff have been very good to me. They say I'm at home when I come up here.
Well, very good, very good. Thank you. I will open up public portion to anyone in the public who has signed and wish to speak in regard to BZA 2025-03. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-03? Hearing none, seeing none, we will close public portion. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, seeing none. What then is the board's pleasure?
Mr. President, I move to accept the staff's recommendation to approve BZA 2025-03.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Is there a second? Having been moved and properly second, are there any questions or unreadiness? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, council.
President Bonds,
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins,
Yes.
Secretary Jones. All right, we'll show that by a vote of 3-0, the petition for a special use permit under BZA 2025-03 has been granted a favorable recommendation. That, just for the boards, as you know, we've recommended favorably. This means the special use permit for use goes now to the city council for final approval.
Thank you, council. And thank you, Ms. Everett. Congratulations. And if there's any additional information, I'm sure you can reach out to the wonderful staff you just called wonderful. And I do, you'll be going to the council next for any further approvals. I'm
We'll
going
let
to
you know.
defer.
Yeah, we'll notify you.
Soon.
I'd rather under promise and over deliver, so I'm not going to answer that one. All right. Next item on the agenda is BZA 2025-04 Development Standards Variance to reduce the 100-foot residential setback for an automotive dependent and related retail, 5310/5334 West Ridge Road. Staff prepared with their overview.
Thank you. This is a petition by Sixers Gas Station. They have been in front of the BZA before. There are 2 docket items on your agenda today regarding this property. This first one is a development standard variance. Our code has a requirement that gas stations, well, specifically auto automotive dependent and related retail businesses need to have a 100-foot setback from residential properties. The properties immediately kind of cat-a-corner northwest of their property is a multifamily property, which puts the building within 100 feet. In your packet, you have a drawing submitted by the petitioner which shows the location of where the building would be located on the property, which maintains the existing commercial setbacks of 10 feet. So this petition is to request the reduction of, or basically eliminate that 100-foot residential setback and continue to maintain the traditional 10-foot commercial setback. We received one letter. We got this today. I will pass it around. I'm going to partially read this letter because it's rather detail-oriented and not really relevant to the request, but I do want to read it into record. It states, I live at 3781 Burr Street, Gary, Indiana. My name is Robert Fouts. My grandfather, Lester Luckman, bought this land years and years ago when they subdivided it from Ridge Road to 37th Avenue. The south side of my property is the border of the petitioned property, about halfway from Burr Street to the southeast corner of my property. He then goes on to basically a legal description of his property. And what this is stating is that the petitioner has gone out and done their survey work by which they put a stake in the corner of what the petitioner believes their corner is. And this person believes that that corner is separate. The let's see, the gentleman, Mr. Fouts, submitted his location survey and a plat survey of the subdivision. I will provide this to petitioner at the time when they come up. It's just a correlation between deed records that need to happen at the title company. It's not in regards to this petition, but we did not receive any inputs in regards to opinions on whether this should be allowed or not from the public. Therefore, I'm recommending approval based on the hardships submitted in their narrative.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Is the petitioner present? Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Dan Tersman. I'm with the Luke family of brands. I'm here on behalf of the petitioner. As was just indicated here, so there's a setback variance that's required for the way the ordinance states. It's any automotive service and related retail. So also in that same section of the ordinance, there's a requirement for a certain setback as well from the road. So if you combine the two of those two items that are listed in the ordinance, it makes essentially the site not built, or would not be possible. So there's essentially a 30-foot setback from any front property line, and then as well a 100-foot minimum distance requirement to the residential property. So that's essentially the hardship. In addition, I wanted to point out that the structure that is within that 100-foot setback is a convenience store. So while it is, I understand, automotive related in that it services the gas station, it could also stand as a standalone retail business that would be similar to a small grocery store, restaurant, all of other uses that are allowed within that zoning district to be at a typical 10-foot side yard setback. So so essentially, any of the fuel equipment or fuel related or automotive related equipment in that is well within or beyond the 100-foot setback. So there would not be any safety concerns or any issues such as that would impact the property. I did submit all of our proposed findings of fact. I'm happy to go through those if that's helpful, or if there are any questions. I could with respect to everyone's time, I'm happy to answer those questions if there are any. But I would just ask that the proposed findings of fact be accepted as my entry.
In regards to BZA 2025-04, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. We're fine, sir. Thank you. How are you? Please state your name and address for the record, and you may proceed.
Robert R. Fouts, 3781 Burr Street, Gary, Indiana, 46408.
Thank you, Mr. Faust. You may proceed.
Okay, I don't have any problems with anything other than one thing. I could care less if they put station in or not. It's crammed up there, and I can't get in and out of my driveway anyway. But what is going on is on the east side of both of our properties, they subdivided it, I don't know when, 1920, whatever the year was, from Ridge Road to 37th Avenue. Okay, when they subdivided the very first property, and then mine's the second one, my grandfather, he's dead and gone, but to make up the contour of Ridge Road, halfway back on my property at that point, they went out on an angle to make up the contour of Ridge Road. Well, when they just come out to survey, them people did, they put the survey stick over on my yard. And 6'8" from that up is a thing that's been in there for God knows how long. It's a cast iron rod going into the ground for property marker. And they also tied a red ribbon around that. They're unsure what's going on at that point, but I figured it out. From Ridge Road, from their southeast corner of their property to my northeast corner of my property, when they divided the two properties, mathematically, they did it. They didn't do the math right. So their legal description, as far as they're concerned, puts the marker where the guy just put it a month or two ago. But my legal description puts it where that round thing has been since my grandfather bought the property back in the 20s or whenever, 30s. And I say they did the math wrong. So if you take their legal description and come this way, the property marker's in the right spot. If you take my legal description and go that way, mine's, according to mine, is right. So if you add up that length, divide it, it's not going to be right. There's got to be either a 3'4" or a 6'8". I forget how I figured it out in my head. But that particular point, their northeast point and my southeast point isn't the same. So I think whoever did that math on that particular length of land, they didn't do the math right. So in a way, they're both right. To them and to me, we're both right. But the person that did the math back in the 20s at the county, wherever they did it, didn't. And it should be pretty easy to figure out. All you got to do is add it up and see that they don't both add up to the total length. Add this one, and then add the total length. It's not right.
Understand. I understand.
That's been going on since the second, whoever divided the property, at that point, they did it wrong.
So to that point, and also to the point that Ms. Sharp made, that's not a decision that we will make here, or nor do we govern. That will be corrected, I believe you said, through the title company. I'm pretty sure the petitioner, if granted the variance, will ensure that whatever land plat survey work will be fleshed out appropriately. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I'll tell you this, I brought pictures of it. They actually, the stake they put in for their survey, they also put a red ribbon around the steel pole in the ground that I think is my property. So they're unsure of where the exact, that point is. They're not even sure where that point is. So I simply think whoever did the math on it did it wrong. And that's all there is to it.
I understand. I can't say I agree or disagree because I didn't see it. So, but I'm sure with it being the property in your name, as well as I'm assuming in who you are representing, once you all, our decision is just to change or allow the use. It won't be to affect who owns what or how it's platted. That still probably needs to be done, and I would encourage, if we move forward with this, that you all work with Mr. Fouts to ensure that however the property is subdivided is divided properly. That's not for us to fix, that's more so the county, as well as the title company when they provide a clean title. That'll be worked out in that process.
Wouldn't that be, if I'm right, that would be a mistake whenever the person at the county subdivided that particular point right there and got it wrong mathematically.
That's correct.
And it should be very easy to, unless there's two other, maybe they got my legal description wrong or they got their legal description wrong. But
that could be.
But it's coming out that one's here and one's here, so I think actually we own half of that. Each of us own, I mean, honestly, we own half of that if it's how it winds up being.
All right, we understand, Mr. Fouts. We're gonna have to defer to the county to fix that issue. I'm not saying it's not an issue. It's just not one that we are responsible for or one that we govern. That's out of our, that's above our pay grade.
You guys take care of it and have somebody that'll look into it?
I'm going to defer to the petitioner and make sure that whatever the survey, when it's done for your closing, if we get that far, to ensure that happens. If we can't really push that initiative from where we sit. Granted, it does need to go to the county, and it needs to be taken care of that way, but that's not our jurisdiction.
If I may, this is our proposed site plan, and I'm assuming your property, I believe, is up here. Is that correct?
Well, let me try to get it in. Where's Ridge Road and where's Burr Street on
This
here?
is Burr Street, Ridge Road.
Okay, and you're.
And then
So if you gentlemen will do me a favor.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
You can look at it, or
go
whatever.
over
We're
here.
gonna go ahead and move forward because we still got other
You want to come
petitions.
over here? Yeah.
There might be someone else in the public who wish to speak. Yeah.
I need to sit back down?
Yes, unless you had something else to say, yes. Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-04? Hearing none, seeing none. Councilman Williams, did you have a comment you wanted to make, sir? All right, thank you, Councilman. Are there any other members who wish to speak? Seeing none, hearing none, are there any questions from the board? Seeing none, hearing none, I will entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. President, I move we approve the BZA 2025-04 per staff's recommendation.
Is there a second?
Staff recommendation. Second.
Having been moved and properly second, are there any questions on readiness? The only thing I would like the record to reflect, and not that it's necessarily related, but to Councilman Williams' point, we just probably need to make sure that this is all in alignment. So I don't know that we need to put a condition on it, because once we give our recommendation, it is still council's. This not. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's a development standards. So, yeah, that's a conundrum.
At the beginning of my introduction, I did state that this actually has come before the BZA in the past. They actually own two parcels. The parcel that's at the corner previously went before the BZA seeking a special use variance, which is your next petition item. This is the corner of Burr and Ridge. This requires a special use for automotive dependent uses. That parcel went before the BZA and it was approved. I had assumed that it had made its way through council along the same lines, but we did not docket what the council's final action was on that petition in regards to the special use for the corner property.
Okay.
But to my knowledge, this is the first time a 100-foot setback has come up within my tenure.
So there stands a chance, not with the development standards variance, and there's a reason why I'm saying this. The development standard variance, we have finality in that decision, but in terms of a complete project, the next petition would have to go before the council. If it went before the council before and was denied, I'm just saying, what do we do? Just think about this. Yeah.
So I should start by saying I was not the petitioner, the petitioner speaking on the behalf of the petitioner with the prior action. That being said, my understanding through the research that I did and what I saw, there was a approval, as Ms. Sharp indicated, there was approval on the setback as well as the use. I believe there were some conditions that were set or something along that effect as far as landscaping or fencing or decorative fencing or something along those lines, which we would be certainly more than happy to uphold as well. But again, I don't know, whether there was, a difference as far as when that was done before City Council. However, again, as we just discussed, the developmental variance would not have been before City Council anyway, so it would have been the use, which my understanding was approved.
Let me make a comment on that. I don't know that the last statement is correct.
Okay.
Not because of you, but because of our past practice. In past practice, I believe everything went to the council. And we have now recognized appropriate statute that it follows a different track. So I don't know how accurate that last statement is. Not your fault, just our past practice. But okay, there's a motion on the floor. I just wanted the record to reflect if there was any inconsistency that we at least have that recorded. In the event we have to go back to visit something. You're about to say something, Council?
Just wanted to advise the board. So the concern from a legal standpoint is we have two use, we have a developmental standard variance, which we're dealing with now, and then the next one is special use variance, correct? For the same property, essentially. The concern is if you grant the developmental use variance, granting the setback, it's there, it's on the property, right? If somehow the special use is not granted, then we've, made a developmental standards variance on a property that maybe doesn't need to have that at that point. Understanding that our decision here on developmental standards is final, it's up to the board. If they want to finalize that vote today, they can. If they want to defer it till we do the research to make sure what the status of that previous special use was, that's also an option.
Which is essentially what I was getting at. But staff have made the recommendation, and the board we have a motion on the table. So we are either taking the vote or to council's point, perhaps the motion is modified or amended it's the board's pleasure. But yes, if we approve one and for whatever reason we come back and the other one hit a pothole, then we have created one conundrum. That's just my only concern. And I don't know how to undo that.
The other, because again, when you grant a developmental standards variance, you can put appropriate conditions on it, okay? You could, if you wanted to move forward today and approve that, you could put it, approving it on the condition that the special use be approved, okay? So that if the special use is not approved, that they didn't meet that condition, they don't have the variance. Or you can just withdraw the motion or amend the motion to say, hey, we're deferring this till we deal with it all at once instead of a piecemeal fashion.
Mr. President, I withdraw the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. So, to council's point, I think for the sake of not continuing to bake this cake, perhaps we do take staff recommendation with the condition of any further information that will help us decide what needs to happen. Mr. Fausto, I see you, but hold on. Your situation is really not speaking to this right now, so we don't want to mix that in. That's my thought, but obviously it's the board's pleasure. And the special use is going to council.
That would have to go.
So
if we approved it, or even if we denied it, it goes to council.
Right. So maybe it is a good idea to accept the recommendation and the approval with the condition so that we're not stuck, unless that's causing a problem. Come on up to the podium, Councilman Williams.
Sorry, Dwight Williams, 6th District City Councilman. Since I've been on the City Council, all of your recommendations come before the council. So there's never been anything that do you know of one that didn't?
No, that's the point we made earlier when I said I don't know if that's accurate. Because in the past, we were advised that everything did go to the council. We've since gotten some new continuing legal education that certain decisions are final, which is also a concern in terms of the consistency between the two bodies, although this one is a quasi-judicial organization with finalization. So I will take the board's pleasure. I certainly can't tell you how to make your motion, Mr. Hawkins, but essentially what we need is a motion to approve it with the condition of how it ties into the special use approval by council.
Mr. President, I move for approval of BZA 2025-04 based on staff's recommendations with a condition that it is acceptable
with the special use that will be presented to the city council.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Is there a second?
If I can make a recommendation, just to clarify it. So the condition should be, you move to approve the developmental standards variance with the condition that the special use variance in 2025-05 be granted, and if it's not granted, then the use variance. Well, I'm making it a little wordier. I just want to make it clear that it's tied in with the other one, and if the other one does not pass, this does not obtain it because it hasn't met that condition.
I move what he said.
You need a second.
Yes.
I second it with the conditions for
As stated
approval
by
of the
Mr.
special
Hawkins and
use.
council.
I don't know what it
As
was.
stated
but
by Mr. Hawkins and council. That's all we need. Have it been moved and properly second? Are there any questions or unreadiness? Hearing none, seeing none, roll call, council.
President Bonds?
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins?
Yes.
Secretary Jones?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll show by a vote of 3-0. The developmental standards variance in BZA 2025-04 is approved with the condition that the special use must, in BZA 2025-05, must also be approved.
By council. Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda, BZA 2025. Hold on, Mr. Fouts. If it's related to the property, it has nothing. If it's related to the point that you made already, okay. Yeah. Very good point. We'll give you an opportunity when this BZA agenda item has a public hearing. So just hold on for me. Just hold on for me. We'll come back to you. BZA 2025-05 special use for petition to allow for an automotive dependent and related retail and service establishment at again 5310 and 5334 West Ridge Road. Staff may proceed with your overview.
2505 is the same petitioner as last. They request a special use to permit an automotive dependent and related retail service basically operate a gas station and convenience store at 5310, 5334 West Ridge Road. This is concerning the parcel on your map that is a rectangle just off the corner of Ridge Road. The property that they own, that was a part of the previous petition, at Burr Street and Ridge Road, the corner property, as I mentioned, has already gone through the BZA and received a favorable recommendation. We will research that to see what happened at the council level. But this request is for this additional property to have the special use to operate a gas station on there. My recommendation is to approve it because it aligns with their adjacent former approval.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dan Tersman, 3592 North Hobart Road, Hobart, Indiana. Again, we discussed the project, so the same project as we talked about previously. As Ms. Sharp pointed out, there are two parcels that are involved with this project. The parcel on the corner has already previously received the special use permit, pending some research here on what happened if something changed at the the council level. But again, my understanding was that approval had gone through. And so what we are looking for or requesting is approval on this adjacent parcel on the use. So again, there are findings of facts that have been presented If there are any questions with those, I'm happy to read through those, and with respect to everyone's time, I would just ask that the findings of facts that have been presented go into the record. Real quick, so that to not take the time, but just to appease to put the public's mind at ease, that if there are any questions in that about the survey, as the board has indicated, that will be a separate process. We will be going through a platting process as part of all of this as well. So the processes that we're here today are for the use and for the setback, but do not, but there will be still processes with the survey. And so again, I will be happy to talk with you through that, and we'll work together with, and through the title work and through the surveyor to get that corrected. And I think that, again, the space between this property and the developments that we look to do and your property, it's a green space buffer that, with detention and that I think we can get this resolved very easily. So if that helps put your mind at ease. But again, I'll be happy to talk to you off record, after this. Okay.
All right. Thank you, sir. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak in regard to BZA 2025-05? State your name and address for the record.
I got terminal cancer and my brain ain't as good as it used to be, but my name is Robert R. Fouts, 3781 Burr Street, Gary, Indiana, 46408.
You may proceed, Mr.
My
Fouts.
mother grew up on that there as a child, and when she was a kid, the southeast portion, I think that's been subdivided into 3 pieces, but there originally was a gas station on the southeast portion, and as to my knowledge, the gas tanks have never been taken out of the ground. There was a gas station on the west, on the corner of 5334 Ridge Road. There was a gas station too. I worked there when I was 12 years old. I pumped gas, and as far as I know, them gas tanks have never been taken out of the ground. Whether they have or not, I couldn't tell you, but as far as I know, they haven't. And they're not supposed to be in there, are they? The gas tanks for the fuel, they filled for the pumps to pump out.
I understand. I cannot, with any degree of accuracy, answer that question, though, Mr. Fouts. But if the station, obviously, which is no longer there, if the services are retired, then in most cases, underground storage tank removal is the process. Do we know if that happened? We do not know. I'm sure that will also be a part of this process when if approved, as part of the business's environmental requirements. So in order to put tanks down there, if they are, they will have to be addressed. I'm not sure if the entity has made a determination, but that again is outside of our purview and our jurisdiction. This is just giving authorization, if approved, for the use.
Okay,
to
yeah,
be
I don't
able to
care
do
about
it.
any of that. They can put it in there. I don't care.
Okay,
It's just,
but
my main thing is my property. I don't want to take an inch of their property, and I don't want them to take an inch of mine. That's all.
yes, sir.
And
we
if the
understand.
gas tanks are still in there, as far as I would think, they need removed.
Yeah, that would be very tedious against the project, but again, outside of our purview, I do thank you. And your concerns are noted. I do not want you to feel or think it's lost on us. It's just that we can't answer it, but I did reflect on the record, and I cannot remember your name. Dan did say that he will get with the appropriate folks to ensure that the properties are platted appropriately.
Okay.
I'm going to trust he's going to do that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I know what happened. The person that divided them did their math wrong, in my opinion.
They went on a lunch break.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
I'll speak with you before.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-05? Hearing none, seeing none. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, seeing none. I'll entertain the board's pleasure.
Mr. President, I move for approval of BZA 2025-05 per the recommendations of staff.
Thank you, Mr. Hawkins. Is there a second?
Need any conditions, right?
Having been moved and properly second, are there any additional questions or in readiness? And we do know the record has reflected that the previous recommendation acceptance is tied to this, and staff will do the necessary work to ascertain what happened, and then obviously the final vote being the council. But roll call, council.
President Bonds?
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins?
Yes.
Secretary, oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you.
Excuse me. Yes.
By a vote of 3-0, will show that the special use permit in BZA 2025-05 has received a favorable recommendation by the board, and will move on to the city council.
Thank you, council, and thank you, Dan. All right, BZA 2025-06, petitioner requested to be moved to February, so there's no reason to address that today.
Mr. President, I move to defer BZA 2025-06.
Second.
Having been moved and properly second, are there any questions or in readiness? Roll call, council.
President Bonds?
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins?
Yes.
Secretary Jones?
Yes.
So by a vote of 3-0, the petition in BZA 2025-06 has been deferred to the February meeting.
Thank you, council. The last item on the agenda is BZA 2025-07, special use for petition to allow for short-term rental at 6110 Ash Avenue. Staff may proceed with the overview.
Thank you. 2507 is a request of an existing home to become a short-term rental. They have provided the adequate information for the application and their public notice. One public notice was received in objection. It is a part of your packet. I did, as I mentioned previously, drive by all of the sites regarding this property. During that time, I discovered that there was work being done on this property, and upon further investigation, there have been no building permits pulled for improvements. I am recommending that you defer, either based on the public input provided in your packet and or the lack of building permits for improvements to allow building permits to be placed and the work done to code prior to us considering a short-term rental.
Thank you, Ms. Sharp. I gotta go to public portion if we're gonna defer it, right? Right. So I will entertain the board's pleasure based off of Ms. Sharp's recommendation.
Mr. President, I move for deferral of BZA 2025-07 based on the fact that there were no building permits issued.
I'll second that.
Mr. President?
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, I believe you might have some persons in the audience that are here because of they anticipated a public hearing associated with this.
Okay. Well, that being the case, council has recommended that we could open up the public portion and then pause the public portion and then defer. So with that being the case, are there any members in the public who wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-07? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Laura Hecht. I'm at 7413 Maple Avenue in Gary, Indiana. I'm representing the clients for this, and I too am blindsided by this. So, what do we need to do now? Do they need to obtain a building permit after the fact and then move forward with this, or?
That's kind of why I wanted to skip the public portion.
Okay.
So we didn't have to
You want me to
address
call
stuff outside of our
instead?
jurisdiction. But I will. What's your name again?
I'm Laura.
Miss Laura, what I will recommend is that you reach out to the staff and determine what those next steps are. Obviously, it's going to necessitate department outside of our jurisdiction in terms of the building permit. But today, I believe we're going to defer it until next month. During that time frame, that's when you can reach out to staff and figure out how or determine what steps need to be taken and how to get this back on the track.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any more members in the public who wish to speak in regards to BZA 2025-07?
Yes, good afternoon. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
My name is Patty Gibson Key, 6120 Ash Avenue. I'm here from a letter that I received certified mail concerning the property at 6110 Ash Avenue. I did come to see what they were trying to do as far as short-term leasing. Can somebody tell me what that is?
It's a So it's a petition to get a special use permit to allow a short-term rental. Under Indiana law, short-term rentals are properties that are deemed rented for 30 days or less, typically Airbnbs or Verbos.
Okay.
And so in a residential area, if the homeowner does not reside in the property, they need to get a special use permit to allow the use as a short-term rental. And that's what the petition for is today.
Okay, thank you. Well, they've already been using that property for that anyway before I ever got a notice. They've been, the property has been rented out for parties or what have you not. The police has been there on several occasions. I have a picture where they have a swimming pool in the back of the yard right now, no fence. People are there coming all over, their kids. I live next door, and I can't get in my driveway for cars parked here and there. Children are everywhere, and then there's the bouncy houses when whatever the individual chooses when they come to rent the property out for whatever equipment that they may need. They bring this stuff with them. They had a golf cart, the kids did, riding around, and it flipped over. And then when I come out, try to get out of my driveway, they had the golf cart sitting in my driveway. So there's been a lot of activity going on that we do not need in our neighborhood, because we only have like 5 houses on my side of the street, and then there are 5 on the other. And we're in like a little circle, a little cul-de-sac. So we're small. I've been there since the 80s, have never had any of this kind of problem going on in our community. So I'm asking that the board do not request this for this Airbnb or whatever it is, short-term Airbnb, so thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional members? Step forward, please state your name and address for the
Donna
record.
Edwards, and I live at 6101 Ash Avenue in Gary, and I live directly across from this property that we're speaking about. There's been many problems as far as this Airbnb. One of the problems that my car was hit, for one thing, in front of my house, and most of the time if I don't come in time, I have no place to park. It's like I don't live there. I have all these people. But I think the most notable part was that they were selling drugs out of this house. And there were a lot of drug paraphernalia in my front yard and on the street, which no one comes to see about this property. There's garbage strewn everywhere, which I have to pick up because it blows all the way over into my yard. But the thing at this point, I am a senior citizen. My property, I've been there for over 24 years. I've done major improvements on my property. And at this point, because the block is so little, most of that area is senior citizens. They are afraid to come out of their home when you got 40 and 50 people in the street with go-karts, cars, parties, thugs, whatever you want to say about them. But it's not safe. We don't feel safe. And the thing is that I went out one day, and there was a lady defecating in my yard. So I asked her, why didn't you go inside? She said to me, quote unquote, I thought this was the Airbnb. I said, no, it's across the street. So it's all kinds of stuff going on here it shouldn't be in the area, basically. And there's no oversight. If the people who manage this property, if they come, they don't come right away. So the garbage and everything, have to pick up beer cans, bottles, all kinds of stuff. So I'm against it, and that's where I stand with this. And I've called the police, and yes, they do come out, but the problem is with me is that I got an Airbnb in front of me, and then I got an Airbnb on the other side, across like from my driveway way down. So I'm getting jammed on all sides with people, parties, and all kinds of nonsense at nighttime. And it's just because we don't have any street lights, it's scary, you know, we don't come out. And I don't think that for my peace of mind and the other people that live on that block, we shouldn't have to live like that. So that's it for me, but I am against it. And thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so are we closing it or leaving it open till the next meeting? Okay. Probably the latter. So we will allow or leave the public portion open since it is the recommendation to defer this item to our next BZA meeting. And that being the case, unless the board had any questions at this time, I will entertain the board's pleasure.
I move for deferral.
It's been moved for deferral. Is there a second?
Second.
Having been moved and properly second, are there any questions or in readiness? Hearing none, seeing none. Roll call, council.
President Bonds?
Yes.
Vice President Hawkins?
Yes.
Secretary Jones?
Yes.
So we'll show by a vote of 3-0 on petition 2025-07 for a special use permit. Action on that has been deferred after the public portion was left open for the next February meeting.
Thank you, council. Do we need to address the BZA calendar? We did
No,
that.
the BZA calendar is there for your information.
Okay, all right.
So-
Then, I'm sorry.
Yep, next meeting is February 13th, 3 p.m.
Okay. Well, the last item on the agenda is adjournment. All those in favor, say aye. Those opposed hold the same right. We are adjourned. Thank you.